Come on. Oh, here we go. All right, we got it. Hey, thanks everybody. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? All right, I'm just waiting for you folks to join in. Art's Place is underway. All right, Margot and Annette. All right, thanks for joining the show. We've got a great show tonight. We're going to talk about Trump's speech last night, State of the Union speech. It was awesome. Also, later on tonight, we're going to talk about Tom Tancredo dropping out of the race for governor. Uh, Hey, Margot. Margot, what are your thoughts on the speech? Oh, and Jack Mayberry, fellow comedian from Los Angeles area, funny guy. Last time I worked with him was in Royal Oak, Michigan, where we worked at the Comedy Castle, and we had a blast going to the Henry Ford Museum. That was a lot of fun. I always have a great time when I go to the Henry Ford Museum. All right, let's wait for a few more people to join in, and then we'll get this thing going underway. Hopefully, we got a good feed here tonight. I'm getting it green on the board here on my OBS software. Facebook is doing fairly well tonight. Let's check back over here on okay. Hey. Oh, hey. Let's share this on Twitter. Cool. Got one person watching. We got the live chat going on here. If you're on YouTube, you could watch there. I believe there's a little better feed going on there, so might be a little better quality. It says my video output is a little low, so hopefully things will work out later on. I am doing the show a little later, thinking that maybe I'll get a little bit better bandwidth going on later in the evening. Margot says she thinks President Trump's speech was powerful and inspirational. It's sad what the Dems did last night, but I believe we truly are on the right path. I agree, Margot. We're going to touch on that in just a few minutes. Let's get a few people here. All right, Robert Muller from the land from down under, my Aussie friend. Great guy. Thanks for joining the show. And Scott Jackson. All right. This should be a good show tonight. Things are running a little better. Chuck Holtz. All right. Thanks for joining in. Office is a little messy, but I've got my drones here, and well, Steve Epstein was asking me about my drones, and here's my little mini drone that I've been practicing with, and it comes with this little controller, and this thing is a lot of fun to fly. I mean, I fly it around in my apartment, and it doesn't have the GPS auto stabilization that the DJI has, and so this will hone my skills a little better. All right, Dennis Lisby. Rhymes with frisbee. You've probably heard that all your life. Okay. Excuse me. Let's get this show going. All right. Watched the speech last night. Wonderful speech. Touched on a lot of very important things. The economy, which is going great, and just amazing to see the faces on the Congressional Black Caucus just sitting on their hands when Trump delivers the great news of record low unemployment for black people. All right, the Candyman is here. Rick Enstrom, Angela Ruiz. All right. So it was amazing to see how the Democrats just had their sour-looking face. Nancy Pelosi, she must have had some spinach or something stuck in her tooth. What the heck was that? And then who was that idiot that went on to give the rebuttal? It was it was a Kennedy. And I guess I didn't see it because I have to work. I get up at 4 a.m., so I had to go to bed, and that was late for me getting to bed. But yeah, they had Joseph. You know, if I get my Bostonian, that's Joseph P. Kennedy the Third. Yeah, that's how they said in Boston. The Third. Ew, my, excuse me. Do you have any grape with corn? And what was with that? The guy was frickin' drooling. And it's like, man, if you're going to give a rebuttal, at least look credible, you know? So that was kind of embarrassing. And from what I heard, that everything that he said, Trump already said in the speech. I mean, they were pretty much agreeing with everything he said, which was funny. And so he touched on the unemployment and jobs coming back, jobs being created, stock market breaking all kinds of records, and people's 401ks going through the roof. I just got my my notice in the mail, my 401k, and I'm like, oh, holy crap, look at how big that is. I'm like, oh, cool. When I retire, I will have enough money to live comfortably. Yeah. In the Philippines. that'll go a long, long way in the Philippines because you gotta remember it's a 50-to-1 ratio. 50 pesos for every $1, and everything is relatively inexpensive there. The only big expense is going to be your electricity and and your internet is not going to be all that great. I think the fastest they have is DSL. Ugh. But they do have Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is really spotty over there. All right, let's get back to the speech. And not only that, he introduced people that were sitting in the gallery, and it just warmed my heart. You know, the two couples from Rhode Island where their daughters were killed by MS-13 gang members that were here illegally that murdered their daughters, and then he had the FBI agent, I think it was FBI agent, who was heading up the task force to root out MS-13, and I thought that was really good. And also, who else? Oh, and they had the Warm Beer family there. I thought that was really touching. The story about Otto Warm Beer and how he, just goes over to North Korea as part of his college learning experience. Gets nabbed for stealing a placard. I mean, it would be just a simple theft. There, they sent him to 15 years of hard labor, and he was treated very terribly, and he died a few days after returning to the United States. They just, man, the things that guy endured over there. And then he had, Suho, I think was the guy's name, the young man who escaped from North Korea, who lost, I think, some of his limbs, and he walked across China to Southeast Asia to escape. And he did that on homemade crutches, and he brought them with him. And oh man, that really touched me. It just almost brought me to tears, just, hearing that. And the speech was inspirational. It was powerful, and what was different about it was we. That's all you heard. We did this. We did that. We not like the last administration where it was I, and me, or my. No, it was a totally different speech. It was more about the country and how we could make the country great again. Where Obama, all he talked about was himself. I mean, the guy is a narcissist. And compared to Trump, Trump is doing all the right things. Now history dictates that usually during the first term of the president, during the midterms, the party in power usually loses power. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think it's going to be because of Trump, because Trump is so different. He is unlike any Republican candidate for president that ever came along. There's been some talk that Trump has done more in his first year than Ronald Reagan did. Now, Ronald Reagan had to do a lot of horse trading there because he had to deal with Democrats, where this time around Donald Trump is dealing with a Republican majority, which really helps because it helps him to move his agenda along. Here's my prediction. I think what'll happen is we'll probably trade seats in the House. We may even gain a few seats. The Democrats have to defend more seats in the Senate this go around than the last cycle. So I think there are some vulnerable seats that we might be able to flip. And boy, if we could get it closer to that 60 seat mark, that would be awesome. Then we could really do some great things in this country. But that has never happened during a Republican administration. As far as I recall, I don't ever remember reading that Republicans ever had super majorities. Well, I take that back. They may have during the Civil War, but after that, I don't think we've ever had super majorities. Now, the Democrats had super majorities twice in their history. Once under Roosevelt during the Depression. He had super majorities. And during the Johnson administration, after Kennedy was assassinated, they had nearly 70 Democratic senators. And that's how the what was that called? Oh, the war on poverty. How all of that welfare programs got pushed out. Because I think if they only had simple majorities, I don't think a lot of those welfare programs would have even gotten wouldn't have seen the light of day. Probably wouldn't have passed. So it would be an awesome thing if the Republicans can pull it off and get supermajority in the Senate, and that way we could just pretty much run the board with anything we want. Because right now, the way it is, I don't think the Democrats are going to budge on anything right now. They are in full frothing at the mouth hatred mode right now. That speech last night totally embarrassed the Democrats. And they are just seething. They are not going to compromise on DACA. They're not going to budge on it at all. So probably what'll end up happening is, if we could hold on to our simple majorities, we'll use the nuclear option and start passing legislation, which should have been done under the Obama administration, but they chose not to. They let the president, through executive order, legislate. Now, if he would have done that during his first 2 years in office. He could have had it done. Why he didn't do it was beyond me. Now, I'm trying to think. So, you folks that are watching, what were your thoughts on the president's speech last night? I'd like to hear from you guys. All right, Sue Bozier is here. Scooter McGee. Scooter McGee also has his own version of the show, a conservative talk show, on Facebook. I don't know. Scooter, are you also on YouTube? If so, do you have a YouTube page? Because that is the place to be. Jim Russell, great. We've got a Kimball grad in the house. Jim Lockard, let's see how we're doing on Facebook or on YouTube. Oh, boy, we're looking really good on Facebook. No messages on Facebook. 2 people are watching on YouTube. Oh, that's great. Maybe Bruce Brown is watching. Yep, I agree, Scooter. Scooter says Democrats showed their true colors, proving once and for all how they hate America. And you know what? I agree to some point, but I don't think it's that they hate America. I think they hate what America has become. I think they want America to be more like the European parliamentary system, to where the way they do things over there is the reverse of what we do here. Over there they have many parties, and what they do is they form coalitions, and that's how they govern. All right, Scooter says he's on air Monday through Friday, weeknights, 9 to 12 a.m. on 1310 KFKA. I believe that's out of Greeley, if I'm not mistaken. All right, well, congratulations on Scott Brockler has joined us. Welcome, Scott. All right. And the Democrats are against tax cuts, free choice in health care, military, and God. That's true. Now Trump made this mistake last night. They were not tax cuts. They were tax rate cuts. I wish he was a little more precise, because that is the vernacular of the Democrats and the left, because what it is he didn't cut tax. He cut the rate at which the government takes money from people in tax. And when people have more money, what do? They buy things. And when they buy things, those companies, their profits go up, and they take some of that money and they put it back into the company in buying more material to make more goods and to hire more people. And also some of that money goes back in as dividends to stockholders. And who are stockholders? People that own 401ks. So think about that. Joseph Paul, all right, thank you. Mike Armstrong, another funny man, has joined the house. He's a former cop who became a comedian. I had the pleasure of working with Mike in the Southeast and in Ohio. Really, really funny guy. I wish Mike would get a gig out here. If he could get into Colorado Springs, I would gladly drive down there to see him perform. If he ever does come to Colorado, go see this guy. He's outstanding. I'll, I'll tell you a funny little story about Mike. We were working at Hilarity's Comedy Club in Cleveland, Ohio, and we just got there, and all the dishes were dirty. They were in the dishwasher, and they just sat there. So Mike had the bright idea of taking the dish soap like Palmolive and squirting a little bit in the dispenser. And he closed up and turned it on, and I'm sitting out there out in the living room, and I'm watching TV, and and I'm listening to what's going on, and I'm like, okay, here we go. All right, the fun is about to begin. Let's see what happens in about 30 minutes. And then Mike comes back in the kitchen. Oh, holy crap! There's foam everywhere on the kitchen floor, where the soap just started oozing out all around the door and on the floor. That's probably the funniest thing I remember about Mike. But we got to work down in North Carolina and in that area, and those were fun gigs. Those were like weekend gigs at bars. And they paid pretty good. It wasn't the greatest, but hey, I had a good time. I like working in the Southeast, especially North Carolina. And one of the places I got to work was New Bern, North Carolina, which is right on the coast, and got to do some fishing there. So that was cool. So, get back to the president's speech. There were a lot of, there was a firefighter there in the gallery who was fighting the fires in California, saved a bunch of people, and there were other heroes that were there in the gallery. It's just like, man, this turned out to be a really good speech. Jim Bleeker, all right, welcome to the show. What else? So he talked about unity and how we should work together on these important things. And I'm like going, yeah, I'm with you on that, but, you're not going to sell that to the Democrats. They are just not going to work with you. They are just hell-bent on doing anything they can to ruin your term in office. They are even trying to get you kicked out of office by saying you're unfit to be president. They're trying to use the 25th Amendment, saying that he's unfit, he's not stable, he could launch a nuclear missile to North Korea. He's crazy, I tell you. He's crazy. And then the doctor gave him a full physical and mental evaluation, and they said, hey, he's in really good shape. He's a little overweight, but heart's in really good condition. Cholesterol levels are normal. His mental faculties are sharp. And they can't say, oh, well, that doctor, blah, blah. That's the same doctor that Obama had. So they can't come back and criticize about that. So now they're really ticked off because they can't get him on that. So they're going to try and lie and distort and to get him out of office. But what they don't realize is, yeah, once they get rid of him, they're going to get Mike Pence, who's going to do all the things that Trump wanted done. So, I mean, there is really no way around getting out of it other than maybe a coup. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to sow so much foment that things get out of control, and they want to see if Donald Trump will call out the National Guard, which will really scare people and say, well, we got to get rid of him. He doesn't care about the Constitution and all these freedoms that he professes to love and blah, blah, blah. All that garbage. All right, Lisa Rizzo. Okay, Christy Dobrovolny. Okay, that's nice Russian name. All right, I don't know if Christy knows any Russian, but all I could say is Здравствуйте and Добрый вечер. Здравствуйте is hello. That's the formal way to say hello in Russian. And Добрый вечер is good night. And I know a little bit of Russian, having two Russian neighbors and some really nice looking Russian gals that used to work at RMO where I work, gave me an opportunity to learn Russian. So, but if you want to know the informal way to say hello, you say привет. Привет is hello in Russian. That's it's the informal way to say hello. If you want to say good morning, you say доброе утро. Доброе утро. Добрый день is good afternoon or good day. So you're learning a little bit of Russian. Oh, and then, all right, well, Steve Epstein just joined the show. Steve, he's married to a Filipina, so I'll try a little bit of Tagalog. I'll say mabuhay, which means welcome, mabuhay. Or magandang gabi, good night. So, Steve, do you know any Tagalog now that you're married to a wonderful Filipina? I mean, he's got the grandkids there, so he's a lolo. That is Tagalog for grandfather, grandpa. Salamat po, which is thank you. Only food. But grandmother is a Lola, uncle is Tita, and aunt is Tito. So I'm engaged to a Filipina, so I'm learning a lot of Tagalog. And plus, every day I watch this program. It's called My PI Dreams, and it's about an American expat. He's a retired Air Force living in the Philippines, and they're building a home there. And he's there with his Yeah, Tito's uncle. Yeah. Thank you, Steve. And so he's married to a Filipina because, he can't own land there, but his wife can. So the house is really under her name. But so they're on build day 296 right now, and I started watching it right at build day 50, and really interesting show. Uh, the way they build homes there in the Philippines, it's different than the way we build homes there, because you got to remember the Philippines. You got to deal with hurricanes and earthquakes. So the house has to be built really sturdy. So really no wood is used in the construction of a house. They use what they call concrete hollow blocks, or what we call cinder blocks. And then with the cinder blocks, is you have rebar in. Oh, can't can you believe this? I get a phone call, and it is from someone in Nevada. So I let that go to my messaging. So people drive me nuts. That's the one thing nice about having a cell phone is you don't have to answer the phone all the time. Where the old telephone, if it rings, you go answer the phone, you find out, unless you have caller ID. But with the cell phone, you have caller ID on it. If you don't recognize the number, you let it go to voicemail. All right, Cleve Tidwell joined, Dave Kerber. All right, we got some good people joining us. So, anyway, let's get back to the speech here. Okay, so I think we covered that he wants to strengthen the military. Oh, and then he wants to spend, I think, $1.4, $1.5 trillion on improving our infrastructure, which I think it needs improvement. But what he wants to do is he wants some of the contracts to go to private individuals. So that means money is going to go to really hard-working individuals who have their own companies, and it's going to make construction a lot cheaper because, well, when Obama was doing that stimulus deal, quantitative easing, he was spending money on projects that only use union people. So those projects, well, they took longer, they cost more, but he claimed it stimulated the economy, which it really didn't, because during Obama's whole 8 years, our GDP growth never rose above 2%. And right now, our GDP growth is over 3%, if not close to 4%. And also on another side note, the Philippines has the second fastest growing economy in Asia, second to Vietnam. Vietnam's, I think, growth rate is 7.1%, where the Philippines is 6.9%, ahead of China, which is, I think, 6.7 or 6.8%, which is good for the Philippines. And I think the Philippines has the potential of becoming the next South Korea. And if they could do that, that would go a long way to make the country a lot better and raise the standard of living in the Philippines. Because out of all of those countries down there, that has the most potential. Because number one, you have 7,139 islands in the Philippine archipelago, and it is incredibly beautiful there. And but the drawbacks are it is in the typhoon belt. They do get super typhoons, but it's relatively close to Southeast Asia and to Australia. So it's kind of like the crossroads to Asia, to where if they have manufacturing there, they could service that region of Asia. And the big upside is they speak English there. They are the largest English speaking population in Southeast Asia. India is the largest English speaking country in Asia. And that's why the Philippines has a lot of call centers there, because they speak English with an American accent. Yeah, they don't speak like Australian. So they've got a lot of potential. And they have earthquakes there because it is part of the Pacific Rim of Fire. And they also have volcanoes. They just recently had a volcano erupt a little over a week ago. And I still have a GoFundMe account. So if any of you folks out there want to chip in a few bucks, 25, 50 bucks or so, Steve Epstein was gracious enough to donate to this cause. And my fiance has family down there. I mean, it's not causing a lot of damage, but still it's spewing out a lot of ash, which could damage anything that has a internal combustion engine. And so it could really screw up things that way. And it's also hell on your lungs too, because basically that ash is like glass powder. And if you take that ash and you heat it up to, like a couple thousand degrees, it will fuse and it will turn to glass. When we had the big Mount St. Helens eruption, and we had that ash spew all over the western part of the United States, some people were bright enough to say, hey, what can we do with this? And somebody had the bright idea. What they did is they took that material, they heated it up under pressure, and they made gemstones out of it. And it had the hardness of quartz, but looked like emeralds because it was a dark green color, and it made really beautiful gemstones out of it. So if you're a smart person, you get some take it to a glass manufacturer. They could heat it up and or a glass blower. And they could make some really beautiful glass artwork. So there's a lot of potential. There's fishing, there's tourism, a lot of potential there. What else? So they talked about the economy here and how manufacturing is coming back to the United States, and how I think one of the foreign auto companies has opened up a factory in Alabama, which is really good. So that shows you that a lot of companies are confident enough that they could make a decent profit here in this country. And all the companies here in the United States that were shipping their money outside the country are repatriating that money back into the United States. All right, James Gross said he actually really loved President Trump's speech more than I expected. Well, I'm glad, James. I knew it was going to be a good speech, but he blew my socks off. I just thought, wow. I mean, he just drove it home and really made some really excellent points. And whoever wrote this speech did a great job. And it wasn't a short speech. It was about an hour and 20 minutes. But he also talked about building up the military. He believes in peace through strength, which is right. And I think, and we're kicking ISIS butt, unlike our last administration where they pretty much made ISIS grow and made stupid comments like, they're the JV team. And they turned out to be a really bad group of people, and they held a large swath of territory in Syria and Iraq, and now they don't control any portions of those countries right now, which is great. They are doing a super job, our military, with the help of the Syrians and the Russians. And Russians finally pulled out of Syria, which is what we wanted in the beginning. And it looks like things are coming around, and now we could get after Boko Haram and some of these other splinter groups, and maybe Abu Sayyaf and the Al Qaeda or the ISIS branch in the Philippines. We could help Duterte annihilate them as well. Now, I have some friends in the Philippines from Mindanao, and I know some of them are either Muslim or maybe they're Christian, but they still have to wear the head covering there. And they're not these America hating, we want to take over the world and spread Islam type of people. I think for the most part, they just want to live and let live. Steve says, Mad Dog Mattis seemed to get a lot of love from both sides. Hard to deny his. That's true. And and the other thing is they are what was I had something. I was going somewhere and I lost it. I was going to go with something, and then Rick Enstrom says, "I'm in America. How about you?" Yeah, this whole thing was about America and the chanting, the USA, USA. Boy, that really riled the Democrats. They hated that. They hated that. It really made them, it unnerved them. Oh, now I know what I was going to say. That he's opening up Guantanamo, and I'm like going, yeah, right on. You know, that whole speech, I was going, right on, right on, right on. Yeah, and I'm clapping, right on, yeah. I mean, if I had a tape recorder in there, that's all you'd hear me say, right on, right on. And so Guantanamo's open, so I guess that their mess hall will be out catering to their dietary needs. Yeah, Peter Bodie like that. And what was that? What was that other posting that I had today? Oh yeah, it was. Did you see, like, right after the speech? Did you see how quickly those Democrats, they couldn't wait to get the hell out of there. I mean, they were practically running over each other trying to get out of there. So my quote was, they ran faster than a lawyer chasing an ambulance. I thought that was pretty funny, but unfortunately, my good friend Jay Ledbetter, who's a lawyer, did not think that was funny. I thought, come on, Jay. I mean, you're starting to act like those idiot liberals getting all butthurt about a comment. It's like, come on. Jokes like that have been around for, a couple thousand years probably. There have been lawyer jokes. I mean, if you're a lawyer and you get all butthurt about lawyer jokes, well, maybe you ought to get out of the business. Oh yeah, Nancy Stenchers. Maybe that's what it was, why she was all Maybe she was getting ready for her husband that night. Go, oh boy. And then Joseph P. Kennedy, the turd, gives his rebuttal. And oh man, I saw that photograph of him. I mean, it looked like Carrot Top had a kid with the Kennedy, and he was just drooling. I'm like going, wow, did Chris Fonseca marry an Irish girl or something? It's like, all right, we got a Filipina in house, Diane Bernal. Hey, welcome, Diane. She is a cousin of Yolanda's, and well, I think it's her uncle who is in Saudi Arabia right now, if I'm correct. She's the cousin of Daphne Bernal. And Daphne Bernal is Jennifer's daughter. Jennifer is Yolanda's sister, youngest sister. Yolanda is one of the two oldest sisters. Rowena is the oldest. She is 45, I believe, and Yolanda is 42. And Nina, the youngest, the baby, I call her my little duende. She's only 4'11", and cutest little thing. She is 29. And I had the pleasure of meeting her when I was over there last year. And the first time I met her, well, the tradition in the Philippines, out of respect for someone older, you take their hand and press it against your forehead out of respect, and that's what she did with me. When I met Nina, she took my hand and I touched her forehead. And I thought, wow, that made me feel good, so I'm learning more and more about the customs of the Philippines. All right, I think we have pretty much talked about the speech. Let's talk about Tom Tancredo. Tom Tancredo has dropped out of the race for governor. He realized that the $75,000 that he raised is just not going to be enough to win the race. Now, he realizes that, yeah, he probably could win the primary, but there is no way he's going to beat Polis if he's only got 75 grand against $1.5 million. Now, Polis is the odds-on favorite to win the Democrat nomination. But that's not a certainty, because there is also division in the Democrat Party here in Colorado. There's a big to-do about Steve Lebsaw, the touchy-feely guy who has a sexual assault complaint against him while he was a state representative. And more I learn about what's going on with this is I'm starting to think, well, maybe that is more of a political thing, because I think Faith Winters, who filed the complaint, she is running for state senate, and she's running against the incumbent Beth Humenick, who is a Republican. The Democrats really, really want that seat, because if they win that seat, then they could flip the Senate and regain control of the Senate. The only other seat they could possibly hold on, but they might lose, is Senate District 20, which is an open seat, and we got a pretty good Republican, Christine Jensen, and she's a pretty good gal. I really like her, so hopefully she could pull it off and we could take that seat. And I think Priola already won his seat 2 years ago, so he's got another 2 years, so we could, thank God, we still have a one-seat majority. Actually, we have more than a one-seat majority, because the incumbent in Senate District 20, Sherry John has left the Democrat Party. She is now an independent. So that gives the Republican kind of a 1.5 seat lead in the Senate. Now the Democrats hold a 9-seat lead in the House. So we need to flip 5 House seats to regain the House. But because of the gerrymandering done in the last census, or the last redistricting, makes it really, really hard for the Republicans to take those seats. However, we've got a census coming up in 2020, and by 2022 we will have our new seats. And it is looking like we may get another Congress, because that's how fast Colorado is growing. It is growing by leaps and bounds. Now in the last 20 years in Douglas County has gone from 60,000 people in the county now to over 300,000 people in the county. So it'll be interesting to see where the new House seat is going to be. I imagine that Denver and Aurora will be split off, and they'll become one House seat. I think the western half of Denver and part of Jefferson County will still be CD1. I think Mike Kaufman's district is going to become even more. It'll become more of a solid Democrat seat, and I think Mike is probably going to retire by 2022. Just my guess, and I think that's what's going to happen. CD7, who knows what CD7 just might become a leaning Republican district, and we might be able to take that seat from Perlmutter in the future. Probably what will end up happening is Perlmutter will see the writing on the wall and decide, it's not worth it. He'll just retire from Congress. So those are my predictions. My other prediction is, here's how the reapportionment is going to work. Guess what? They're going to use the Democrats' maps again. You know why? Here's what's going to happen. Even if we have a Republican governor and we control one or both houses, the Democrats are going to they're going to sue, and what will end up happening is the redistricting and reapportionment will go to the courts. They'll get a friendly judge, and with the Democrat-controlled state Supreme Court, they are going to affirm the ruling in the court, and that's how the maps are going to be drawn up. And that has been going on since 1980. And you know how we got there, and I've probably told you this many times. It is the 24 years of Democrat governors, Dick Lamb and Roy Romer. This was before term limits, because if I'm not mistaken, I think each one of them served 3 terms. If Rick can confirm this for me, I would really like to know. So and that's why you are seeing Colorado slowly becoming from a red state to a blue state. We're going to end up like New Mexico. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we take the governorship and we hold on both houses and we end up getting our own maps and we start turning the tide back from the clutches of liberalism. So, with Tom Tancredo out of the race, it really has opened up Walker Stapleton's chances of winning the primary, and I believe if he wins the primary, he is going to be the next governor. I surely hope that the Liberty crowd is not the RMGO wing. I call them the other establishment wing of the party, are not going to just say, I don't like Walker Stapleton because he's a Bush. He's a Bush. And I don't like him, and I'm not going to vote for him. So I'm staying home. I don't care if Polis is the governor. So I hope they get their heads on straight and say, we can't have Polis, because he is even nuttier than Moonbeam in California. So get your asses in gear, and if Walker, any one of those guys is going to be a wonderful governor. But if it ends up being Walker Stapleton, put your petty differences aside and think about the state and say, all right, we cannot let this lunatic Polis become the governor. So get your asses in gear and support this guy. And by the way, tomorrow, where I work, at orthodontics, Walker Stapleton is going to tour our company. He's going to go through every department in the plant. And then he's going to give a presentation at the end and take questions and answers. So, Rick, should I ask Walker Stapleton, which do you prefer? Enstrom candies or Godiva? I think that's a big enough softball question to throw. Or I could be really tough and ask him if, you're governor, are you going to proceed with Nathan Dunlap's execution? That'd be interesting. Or how about this? While you're governor, are you going to go after mayors or city councils that have sanctuary cities? I could be tough like that. So I want to thank you all for coming to my show, and I hope it was informative and entertaining as well. So tune in each week where we'll talk about another hot topic concerning our government in the United States, Colorado, and the world. So Good night to you all, and God bless you. See you next week. Bye-bye. Good night.